she brings in this fishnet bodysuit outfit. Like the whole body is like covered, not my head, but like my body is covered in fishnet. And I was like, oh, fuck that. She like puts it on each one of my little feet, and, like helps me put it on my legs. And then I like stand up and put the rest of the thing on. I help her get hers on. And we had so much fun with our fishnet outfits and like tearing them off. Hey, I'm Jen, host of the Open Bedroom Podcast, where you'll find topics of sex, dating, relationships, non-monogamy, and more. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in. Today, I want to talk to you about Dyad Dates, how to nurture your one-on-one time with each partner. So Scott and I have been in long-term polyamorous relationships with multiple partners now for several years. Steph and I have been in relationship now for 2 years. Isn't that exciting? At one point we were a throuple with Scott, and then Steph and I kind of broke off, or Scott stepped back, whatever, about, I don't know, maybe 9 months ago. And so Steph and I have just kept this going. Jess, Scott, and I have been in a throuple now for 9 months. What I wanted to say today is how, maybe just kind of explain how each one of our relationships differ with each one of our dyads. If you're like, I don't understand what dyad means. All it means is within some sort of configuration of relationshiping, it means your one-on-one relationship with the other person. If there's, in my case, I have Steph, Jess, and Scott as partners. And so I have an individual relationship with Steph, an individual relationship with Scott, and an individual relationship with Jess. Scott has an individual relationship with me and an individual relationship with Jess. And each one of those looks different. And so I wanted to just quickly explain in today's episode how they differ and how I make a priority to have this really yummy one-on-one time with each of my partners so that our relationship stays strong as individuals and that we're not like relying on a throuple or some sort of configuration to keep the energy moving and to, stay romantic with each other. So just this past weekend, we had our dyad dates, and it's been really difficult to get Jess and Scott together just because of some things on Jess's side. Scott isn't allowed to spend the night with her at where she's living. So we've had to get really creative. Like we've had Scott and Jess get hotel rooms a few times. When we first started dating, we were meeting halfway and then trying to get spicy in a car. That was ridiculous and very much like teenagers. It's been really difficult for them. I, on the other hand, get to go up and spend the night with Jess and have sleepovers with her. And so that's been much easier. So it was really important to me because the last few months, Scott has been really vocal to say, I don't just want to get a hotel room and have sex. Like that does not feel deep enough for me. It feels shallow and I don't want to do that. I want to really connect with Jess. I want to sit down and watch Severance with her and get to the next episode. I want to go see a movie. I want to go out to a museum. I want to go have dinner. Like I want to really, really connect in with her as a person and not just get naked with her. Just taking a back step here. If you haven't explored the Erotic Blueprints by Jaya, this is really important to do with your partners because you're going to realize that each one of them has a very different way of feeling love and connection. I am a very high sexual blueprint, meaning I connect best with sex, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. I feel love through sex, through the act of sex. I literally feel loved by my partners. Scott needs connectivity. He needs an energy exchange. He needs physical touch, and he needs that kind of warming up in order to then want to fuck our brains out. So look, we're all like, how can we make that happen? Because we want that. Jess and Steph are both very much sexual creatures. So they're both high sexuals. I would say Steph is more energetic sensual. So she definitely needs the energy exchange and touch and sex. She kind of is into all of that. Maybe even a little kink thrown in. Hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing that. I don't think she does. And then Jess is, I would say, probably that same sensual, energetic, sexual. So, but either, I would say Jess can lead with sex and fully be turned on and ready to go, where Steph necessarily doesn't. And so she needs that sensual and energetic connection. She needs a heart connection. She needs physical connection. And then for her, sex turns on. But we get that done in the bedroom versus with Scott, we get all of our connections made before the bedroom. I hope this makes sense. And hopefully that you can think about either partners that you've had in your past or your current wife, spouse, partner, husband, whatever. Maybe you're like, oh yeah, my husband's like that. My wife's like that. My partner's like that. My girl, whatever. And then you can approach them differently. So I wanted to talk about what our weekend look like. And even I'll add on, other times that Jess and I have gotten together because her and I did not have one-on-one time this weekend. So going back to, it was really important for me to prioritize Jess and Scott having their alone time, having an overnight together, having space to really explore their own relationship. So I talked with Steph about a month or two ago as Jess and I are getting our calendars out and we're trying to plan April. And I said, how would you feel, Steph, if we have a sleepover? Like I've never had a sleepover with Steph. She's slept with Scott and I overnight a few times when we were dating, but typically I go and Steph and I get crazy and then I come home. And I guess I had this story in my head that Steph likes to sleep alone, that she doesn't necessarily want anybody else there. And so, like, that was my story. But in order to get Jess and Scott their own space and us to not have to spend money on a hotel room, I had to like get brave and just be like, so how do you feel? How do you feel about us getting freaky and then me spend the night? And she was like, hell yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun. So, so Jess and Scott got to have their own night while I was doing my own thing with Steph. And then we met up the next morning for breakfast, which was wonderful to all come together and then tell stories from the night before of how it went. So here's how Jess and Scott's night went. Hopefully they don't mind me sharing this too. I'll get permission before this posts. But so the first thing that was really funny is that both of us, both sets of us, had a special outfit. Okay. So Jess thought before she came down, I've always been into that like summer sundress and getting fucked in a sundress. I want to play that out. So she wore this cute little dress to come meet Scott. And she told him, like, my intention is to have you fuck me in the sundress. And he was like, ooh, I like that. That's a fun idea. So she wore the sundress to the movies. I'm sure he was feeling her up on the way to the movies or in the movies. And then, another fun thing is, I do not like horror movies. I don't like super intense, like war movies. I'm out. And there's this horror movie playing right now that Scott really wanted to see. And he ran it by me and the kids last weekend, and we were all like, no, we don't want to see that. Like, I don't want to be fucked up after watching that. Well, Jess was totally into it. So they went to see the horror movie. She wore her sundress. She made it home and got her brains fucked out in a sundress and got to cross a bunch of stuff off her list. And apparently her and Scott had a super sensual night and made love multiple times. And she snuggled into our bed and slept with the dogs piled on top of her. And she was in heaven and it was exactly what she wanted. One other super sweet thing lately is Jess has been really good about asking for what she wants or wants to explore or experience with us. And a few months ago, she was like, I want to shower with you guys. Like that would be really, really sensual and fun for me. And so now we just make it a practice to make sure we like throw her in the shower and we all get to shower before we leave. So they had a fun shower together too. Okay. So on my side with Steph, we again with very much intention, kind of like Jess and Scott, we for weeks planned our night together. We explored like, do we want to set a scene? So I guess I should also take a minute and kind of tell you like my sex with Scott is very sensual. It's romantic, it's sensual, it's intuitive, like we flow with each other, we have fantastic sex, multiple orgasms. It's fantastic. It's the best sex I've ever had in my life, and that's why I chose Scott to be my life partner because I was like, dude, this dude knows how to do it right. Like I think my first night with him was like 3 hours of sex, 3 fucking hours. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I did not know this was available. I've never had that in my life. So, Steph and I, we are super primal. Steph is a very primal lover, meaning like she doesn't give a shit what she sounds like, looks like, smells like. Not that she smells bad, she smells amazing, but like all the things that, at least for women, that are in our heads about like, does sex smell weird? Am I making too many noises? Like, am I irritating the person? Like, Steph's like, I don't give a fuck. She's like, come in here and act like a lion with me. And I'm like, all right. So Steph has taught me how to be really primal. And we've been playing with our kind of kinky fantasies back and forth. And I've been checking out FetLife lately to just get some ideas of what really turns me on that I'm a little ashamed about or ashamed to admit that I know Scott would never do with me. Cool. That's the shit I'm gonna go do with Steph. So I was telling her, okay, I've been watching this like ragdoll porn stuff on Pet, and it's like super turning me on. But I can't envision us doing that as women because, like, I don't want to incorporate you having to fuck me with this big dildo or like making me choke on this giant dick dildo where I want to honor that you're a woman and I'm a woman and we're women having sex together. And so, like, what is our version of that? I just don't like, I literally can't in my mind make that make sense. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna scratch that off. I don't know why, but for me, like the ragdoll porn has to be a dude like banging the shit out of a girl. By the way, I hope you're not listening to this with your kids in the car because you should never listen to any of my episodes with kids in the car. We are adults having adult conversations right now. Adults, consenting adults that have sex. That's what's happening right now. Okay. So as I got closer to our night together, Steph kept going like, what's your desire? What do you want to co-create together? What magic do you want to make? What's your vision? Do you want to create a scene? Do you want? And I just kept going, I feel like I'm forcing it. Like the thing I thought I wanted to try, I really can't try. Like Scott's not going to ragdoll fuck me. And Steph doesn't have a giant penis to ragdoll fuck me. And while we have strap-ons, like that's just not the kind of energy I'm trying to bring into her and I's relationship. So I was like, I don't know. But I remembered my favorite night with her where we did lots of sensual play, lots of like heat and cold and like feathers and all kinds of fun stuff. And it was like primal, but also sensual. So like sensual primal night. And so I was like, hey, do you remember when we went to Florida and we had that night? And it was so incredible. And I felt like all this stuff unlocked inside of me and I felt so good in my body. Can we do that again? And she was like, fuck yeah. Okay, outfits. So I told you Jess had a sundress. Steph had an idea. So she was like, I've always wanted to like wear fishnets and like rip it off of my body and like have you rip it off me and I'll rip it off you. And I'd forgotten about that conversation. And so like halfway through the night, she goes, hang on just a sec. And I was like, okay. She's like, I have something that I want you to wear. Lay here. And I was like, okay. And she brings in this fishnet bodysuit outfit. Like the whole body is like covered, not my head, but like my body is covered in fishnet. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. So she like puts it on each one of my little feet, like helps me put it on my legs. And then I like stand up and put the rest of the thing on. I help her get hers on. And we had so much fun with our fishnet outfits and like tearing them off. And I realized like I could use the torn parts as leverage and like pull her into me or shove her away or like use it to maneuver, kind of like you would with rope. That was super fun. So anyway, outfits were involved. Okay, so that gives you some ideas of two different nights of what an individual dyad night looks like and why it's important to have one-on-one time with each one of your partners because no partners are the same, right? And especially when you get people together, like when Scott and Steph would have sex, it was totally different than when Steph and I have sex or when Scott and I have sex. So anyway, so the third thing and the last thing I just wanted to say, I wanted to mention one more thing. So I told you about a sexy night that I had with Steph. Well, a few nights ago, Steph and I went to go see David Sedaris together, and I was like in this full room with like a whole bunch of older people just laughing at him, laughing. He was so adorable. I love the way he speaks. And that's another great example. Like, it doesn't always have to be a sexy one-on-one time, but it was something that Steph wanted to do like last October. She saw the tickets and was like, "Will you come with me?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I will. Thank you for inviting me to something that means something to you, that's really important to you." So we went and saw David Sedaris. Okay, my time with Jess. So Jess is my partner that loves snacks. I've never met a person that loves snacks more than Jess. She would rather eat some snacks and have dinner, and she will snack throughout the day, just a little bit at a time. It's really cute. So I bought this snackle box. Have you guys heard of these? They're totally for like bougie white ladies. They're like a tackle box, but for snacks. And you can get them like on Amazon or in Walmart over in the home area that has like plates and to-goes and that kind of thing. So the last time I visited Jess, I thought, okay, I'm the dom in my relationship with Jess. So I'm going to have a sensual night with her. I'm going to do food play. I'm going to have a mask on her. I want her to experience what it feels like to have different types of foods because she loves snacks in her mouth and then on her body. So I had whipped cream, which do not put whipped cream on your vagina, but I did put whipped cream in between her breasts and on her nipples, and then I licked it up. She loved that. I didn't do that first. I had like pretzels because I know she loves like salty snacks. I had different types of chocolates. One had like a marshmallow caramel goo inside of it. I had different types of fruits, like watermelon, so she could taste something super wet, like I like a wet fruit. Blueberries, blackberries, strawberries. I'm trying to think. Oh, I had some cheese puffs. Again, like I would never take these kind of snacks to Steph. I would take dark chocolate. I would take strawberries, raspberries, watermelon, or even like some orange, but I would never take a salty snack to Steph. Jess is a different animal and she likes her salty snacks. So I fed her individually. I did it like fun food combinations. I ate food off of her body. And by the time like the whipped cream happened at the end, she was like, "Oh my God, please fuck me." It was so much fun. Also, hot tip, if you're going to do food play in the bedroom, get a splash blanket. Just get like a king size or a queen, spread it over the top layer of your bed. Get nasty and dirty with your food. That's another thing. Something Steph did to me the other night, which is a good fun idea with food. You can take watermelon and like crush it up your body and then lick that or eat that off your partner. Sometimes that's way more fun than something super sweet like whipped cream if you're not into, or you want like no sugar, right? Okay. So let's see. So my night with Jess that particular time, we did the food play, we did all kinds of fun, sexy stuff. Every now and then I like to buy a new toy for my partners, just something for them and for me to share. And I do have a strap on. So Jess and I were exploring I have like 2 or 3 dildos already, but they're pretty average size dildos. And so I was like, what if we play with like a little bit more girth, like a little bit more length, a little bit more friction, and then we just kind of play with that feeling. And so she's like, cool, let's do it. So we have a new dildo. Her name is Crystal. She is like this clear, iridescent, maybe 8-inch cock. She's pretty great. And Crystal lives with Jess. Jess has, I don't know, she owns Crystal now. Okay, how do I want to wrap this up? That was a lot of sexy talk. I hope that you guys hear me or you're watching this on, I don't know, YouTube or a podcast channel like Spotify that has video, and you see I'm like a really normal looking person. Like I really, really want to make people aware that you can be in an open relationship and be a really classy person. You can be a high income earner. You can be a baseball mom. You can be a dog mom. There's no specific type of person in an open relationship. And if this stuff interests you and you're like, Jen, I want to learn how to open up my relationship, or I'm really curious about this with my spouse or my partner, but I don't know where to start. I want to let you know that you can do work with me. So I do offer coaching. I call it Coaching with Jen. I'll put a link below in the show notes in case you're curious and you want to check this out. What it looks like is we have an initial hour-long conversation where we explore where you're at and where you want to take your relationship. This could be you solo, you and your partner if you've already had a conversation with them. And if you haven't and you're just starting to dip your toes in, I normally recommend just starting with you, because you want to be really careful when you go to your partner and you say, hey, I want to have sex with other people. That's not how you say it, first of all. But you want to make sure that you're really educated in the open relationship space, that you have tools and you have communication, techniques and words to say to lovingly approach your partner with this kind of an idea, instead of horrifying them or thinking that you're going to leave them. So anyway, I just want to put a plug in here for if this kind of thing is interesting to you. You're listening to me talk about my different partners or Scott and my partner, and you're like, this is something that I want to try out. I want to encourage you to contact me and book a coaching call, and let's go from there. Okay, guys, I hope this has been helpful. Until next time, bye.
Thank you for listening to the Open Bedroom Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and give us a like and click subscribe below and stay up to date on all the new episodes that we release. If you have a topic that you'd really like more information on, leave us a comment below and we'll see what we can do. Feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and especially your partners. This is a great way to open up some amazing conversations. We'll see you next week.